The galaxy was quiet, but it was the kind of quiet that felt wrong. The kind of quiet that made even the bravest captains check their scanners twice. Rumors had spread for months about a ship that no one could stop. They called it the Doombringer. A name whispered in fear in every starport and on every battle station. It was not just a ship, it was a monster built of steel and shadows. It had first appeared on the edge of the Zorith system. The strongest defense fleet in that sector had gone to meet it. There were 30 warships, each one armed with the most advanced weapons in the Alliance. They fired everything they had. The space between the ships lit up like a star-going supernova. When the light faded, the Alliance ships were gone, only drifting wreckage remained. The Doombringer was untouched. Every time the Deathworld Alliance tried to stop it, the story was the same. Fleets vanished, colonies were burned, and the black shape of the Doombringer drifted away without a scratch. Its weapons were unlike anything the galaxy had seen. Plasma beams that could slice through battleship armor in seconds. Missiles that moved like they had minds of their own. Shields so strong they laughed at the heaviest railgun fire. The Alliance was made of the toughest worlds in the galaxy. Planets where survival was a fight every single day. Their soldiers were hard, their ships deadly, but nothing they had was enough. Commanders started refusing to send fleets against the Doombringer. Not because they were cowards, but because it was like throwing lives into a furnace. The council grew desperate. They gathered in the Great War Hall. Their voices low, their eyes heavy with worry. They debated for hours. Some wanted to send their largest dreadnoughts all at once. Others wanted to evacuate the threatened sectors and just run. None of the plans seemed likely to work. Everyone knew the truth. They had no idea how to beat this thing. Then, almost as an afterthought, someone mentioned Earth. The moment the word was spoken, a few council members laughed. Earth was new to the stars. A small world on the edge of the Orion Arm. They had no long history of galactic war. No massive fleets, no legendary admirals. To the others, humans were just ambitious newcomers. Loud and stubborn, but untested. The idea of sending them against the Doombringer seemed like madness. But the Terran representative didn't laugh. He simply leaned forward and spoke in a calm voice. "Give us one chance," he said. The room went silent. The representatives' eyes were steady. There was no fear there. One of the Cathar generals scoffed. "Your fleet is small. Your weapons are old. You have no hope of surviving." The human only smiled faintly. "Maybe, but we've survived worse." His words made a few of the older warriors pause. Humans were from a death world too, a world full of storms, predators, and endless ways. To die, they had learned to adapt, to fight back no matter the odds. The council argued again. But desperation pushed them to agree. Earth would have its chance. 5 human warships were sent to the Volter system. Where the Doombringer had last been spotted, they were not sleek or beautiful ships. Their hulls were heavy, their paint scratched. From old battles to many in the Alliance, they looked like nothing more than stubborn scraps of metal heading to their doom. As the human fleet traveled, every transmission from the Alliance carried warnings, orders to retreat if the Doombringer appeared, but the human captain, Marcus Kane, ignored them. He spent every hour studying every fragment of battle recordings from past encounters. He watched again and again, searching for something everyone else had missed. Marcus was not a man who believed in unbeatable enemies. He saw patterns where others saw chaos. He noticed how the Doombringer's massive gun would pause after firing. A small delay, maybe only seconds, but enough for someone fast enough to strike. No one in the galaxy had been fast enough yet, but Marcus thought humans might be. The closer they came to the Volter system, the more tension grew on every deck. The crew spoke in low voices. Their hands moved quickly over controls. Outside the windows, the stars seemed colder, darker. It was as if the space itself knew the Doombringer was near. The first sight of it froze the bridge. The black ship emerged from behind a burning moon. Its size made even the largest human vessel look small. Its surface was covered in jagged armor, like the plates of some ancient sea monster. No lights shone from it. It was a shadow in the void, yet somehow it felt like it was watching them. Marcus gave no speech. He simply said, "Hold positions." The Doombringer moved slowly, like a predator testing the air before striking scanners. Tried to read it, but most of the signals bounced back useless. Its defenses were layered and clever. For a moment, it seemed the monster would just drift past them, ignoring these small human ships. Then it turned, and the crew felt the shift in the air. It was coming for them. Every survival instinct screamed to run, but Marcus stayed calm, his voice steady. "Wait for my mark." The Alliance fleets had always charged in with everything at once. Marcus had no intention of doing that. He had a plan, and it began with letting the Doombringer think the humans were just another easy kill. The crew held their breath as the black ship drew closer, its weapons heating up. In the council chamber light years away, leaders watched the feat in silence. Many expected to see the human fleet vanish in a single blast, but none of them could take their eyes away from the scene. Something felt different this time. The Doombringer's weapons flared, space lit up with deadly light, and the first strike began. The blast from the Doombringer's cannons tore through the empty space where the human fleet had been just a second earlier. Captain Marcus Kane had moved his ships before the enemy even fired. His voice was calm as he gave short, sharp orders. "Evasive pattern Delta. Keep them guessing." The human ships darted between drifting asteroid fragments, their engines burning blue streaks in the darkness on the Doombringer's bridge. The alien commander tilted his head, curious most. Prey ships either fled in a straight line or charged blindly. These humans did neither. Instead, they moved like predators themselves, fast, unpredictable, and just out of reach. He ordered another volley, this time aiming ahead of them. But again the humans slipped away, the huge blast smashing harmlessly into rocks. Marcus studied every movement of the Doombringer, his eyes flicking between sensor screens and the shifting shadows outside. He knew the enemy's armor was too strong for a direct assault, so the first step was to blind it. "Target their sensors," he ordered. The crew locked onto the strange protrusions along the enemy hull, small compared to its massive guns. But just as important, the first human salvo cut through the dark, a storm of railgun rounds and high-speed missiles. Explosions rippled across the Doombringer's surface, and for the first time in its long reign of terror, the monster flinched, its targeting beams flickered, its scanning arrays sparked and died. A murmur ran through the human crew. They had heard it, even if only a little. Marcus didn't let the moment go to waste. "Good hit. Now fall back into the field." The ship slipped deeper into the asteroid belt. Hiding among the spinning rocks, the Doombringer fired wildly into the field. Asteroids shattered into clouds of glittering dust. The blast shook the human ships but didn't find them. Marcus knew they had seconds before the enemy adjusted its strategy. In the Alliance War Hall, alien leaders leaned forward in disbelief. "They damaged it?" One of the generals muttered. No one had ever done that before. A Xeron strategist squinted at the feed. "They're not fighting like us. They're fighting like it," he said quietly. Marcus opened a private channel to his fleet. "Listen up. This isn't about glory. It's about survival. We can't hit them head on, but we can make them bleed one cut at a time." His crew responded with firm acknowledgments. They trusted him, even here. Staring at the most feared ship in the galaxy, the Doombringer shifted tactics. Instead of chasing, it slowed down, letting drones pour from hidden bays in its hull. The machines spread through the asteroid field, their scanners sweeping, their weapons hot. They moved like a cloud of metal insects. "Drones incoming," the tactical officer warned. Marcus gritted his teeth. This was the part he had been dreading. "Split the formation. Make them choose targets," he ordered. The 5 human ships broke apart, vanishing into different directions. The drones followed, but the humans used the asteroids as shields, ducking behind massive rocks, then darting out to fire before disappearing again. One ship, the Vigilance, lured a group of drones into a narrow gap between 2 tumbling asteroids. The pilot boosted out just in time for the asteroids to collide, crushing the drones in a silent explosion of metal fragments. Still, the fight was costly. The Resolute took a hit to its engines. Spinning out of control, Marcus ordered another ship to tow it into cover, his mind racing. He couldn't let them. Were the humans down, they needed something bigger, something the Doombringer wouldn't expect. He thought of the gas giant beyond the asteroid field, its rings thick with frozen debris and old mining stations left behind by the Alliance decades ago. He remembered reading that some stations still had working power cores, unstable but potent. An idea began to form, a dangerous one: navigation. "Plot a course to the giant's rings," he said. The officer hesitated. "Captain, that will take us right past its broadside." Marcus's eyes didn't waver. "Exactly. We'll make them think they've cornered us." The fleet regrouped, engines flaring bright as they left the cover of the asteroid field. The Doombringer immediately adjusted its course, swinging around to block their path, its massive hull glinting in the faint light of the distant sun. On the enemy bridge, the alien commander bared his teeth in what his species considered a smile. The prey was running into open space. Just as he wanted, he ordered all weapons to prepare for the kill shot. The human fleet kept moving straight toward the gas giant. Marcus's hands tightened on the armrest. Every instinct screamed at him to dodge, but he held the course. At the last possible second, he barked, "Brake!" The fleet split apart again, peeling away in sharp arcs. The Doombringer's broadside fired, the energy beams cutting through where the humans had been a heartbeat earlier. Marcus's ship, the Dauntless, dove straight toward the enemy, weapons blazing at point-blank range, targeting not the main guns, but the seams in its armor. The enemy's shields flared under the barrage, struggling to adjust to the sudden close-range assault. Marcus didn't stay to press the attack. He pulled away, leading the Doombringer on a chase toward the gas giant, the other human ships falling in behind. The alien commander snarled, realizing too late that he had been lured away from the asteroid field and deeper toward a place he didn't fully understand. Marcus's mind was already on the next move. The mining station in the rings was waiting, its unstable core armed and ready. All he had to do was get the Doombringer close enough. Back in the Alliance Council, silence filled the war hall. No one dared speak as they watched the humans play a deadly game of cat and mouse with the galaxy's greatest predator. And for the first time, a thought began to creep into their minds. Maybe, just maybe, the humans had a chance. The Vaulter system was quiet when the human fleet arrived. Only the faint hum of their engines broke the silence. The stars seemed distant and cold, and the black gas clouds drifting across the system made the place feel like a graveyard. Captain Marcus Kane stood at the center of the bridge, his eyes fixed on the forward display. Every crew member knew what they were waiting for, and every crew member knew it could be their last day. The Doombringer appeared without warning. One moment there was empty space, and the next, the monster was there. It had dropped out of warp so silently that even the ship's sensors hesitated. Before sounding the alarm, the sight of it made the bridge feel smaller. The black warship seemed to swallow the light around it, its hull jagged and sharp like the armor of some deep-ocean predator. Marcus didn't flinch. "Maintain radio silence," he ordered, his voice calm. Not because he wasn't afraid, but because fear had no use right now. The rest of the crew obeyed instantly, shutting down all non-essential systems and making the fleet as quiet as possible. The Doombringer moved slowly at first, scanning the system. It had no reason to hurry. Nothing had ever escaped it. Marcus's 5 human ships were already hidden among the thick asteroid field near Vaulter's second moon. They were invisible to the eye and difficult to detect on sensors. But Marcus knew the enemy would find them eventually. The trick was to decide when and how. "Captain, target lock possible in 90 seconds. Whispered the weapons officer. Marcus nodded once, his eyes never leaving the display. The Doombringer's path was steady, its massive weapon slowly rotating as if it were choosing where to strike first. The human plan was dangerous. Some might say insane. Marcus didn't want to meet the enemy head-on. He wanted to blind it, weaken it, and then force it into a fight on his terms. The asteroid field gave him cover, and humans were good at using cover. They didn't have the strongest ships, but they were quick, unpredictable, and willing to take risks no other species dared. The first salvo came without warning. A beam of plasma brighter than the sun cut through space, smashing into a distant asteroid. The explosion lit up the whole field. Fragments of rock scattered like shrapnel. Marcus didn't move. Hold. Hold, he said softly. The Doombringer moved closer, still searching, still confident. Marcus waited until it was almost in the center of the asteroid belt. Then his voice was firm. Fire. 2 human ships broke from cover, launching a spread of torpedoes directly at the enemy's forward sensors. The weapons streaked through the darkness, glowing faintly against the black. The Doombringer's shields flared, catching most of them, but one torpedo slipped through, striking the sensor cluster with a sharp white burst. The effect was instant. The Doombringer's scanning beams flickered, then went dark for a heartbeat. That heartbeat was all Marcus needed. Move. He barked. The human ships scattered, darting between asteroids, using their small size to vanish from sight. The Doombringer fired wildly, its plasma beams tearing through rock and dust, but hitting nothing solid. The monster was blind, and for the first time in its existence, it had missed its prey. On the bridge of the human flagship, tension turned to a sharp, cold focus. Marcus knew they couldn't celebrate yet. Switch positions, keep hitting and running, never stay still, he ordered. The humans became shadows, striking from unexpected angles, sending bursts of railgun fire at the Doombringer's weapon mounts, targeting its engines, its comms, relays, anything that could slow it down inside the Doombringer. The alien commander snarled in frustration. This was supposed to be another easy hunt, yet these tiny ships moved like insects, impossible to crush, stinging again and again before vanishing. Rage burned in him, and rage made mistakes happen. The battle turned into a deadly game of hide and seek. Asteroids exploded around the humans as the Doombringer's weapons fired in all directions. Shockwaves rattled hulls, and every time, Marcus pushed them further in, deeper into the belt where the enemy's size became its weakness. One human ship took a glancing hit, its rear shields failing. Alarms blared as smoke filled its corridors, but the crew didn't break. They limped into a narrow gap between 2 massive asteroids vanishing from the enemy's sight. "Captain, they're chasing hard," the navigator warned. Marcus allowed himself the faintest smile. "Good," he said, because that's exactly what he wanted. The Doombringer's commander was no longer hunting carefully. He was charging in, tearing through the asteroid field, determined to crush these defiant little ships. The monster's hull scraped against rock, throwing up showers of glowing debris. Each impact weakened its armor a little more. Marcus kept his own ship close enough to draw the enemy on, but far enough to dodge its main weapons. The rest of the human fleet stayed scattered, hitting from the sides and vanishing again. Every hit was small, but small hits added up. Finally, the humans made their boldest move. One ship cut across the Doombringer's bow, firing a pair of EMP torpedoes at point-blank range. The first was destroyed mid-flight, but the second slammed into the hull, sending a pulse of blue light across the ship's surface. For 2 full seconds, the Doombringer's lights dimmed. In the silence of those 2 seconds, Marcus felt the shift. The humans had just proven something the entire galaxy didn't believe. This monster could be hurt. And if it could be hurt, it could be killed. The Doombringer recovered fast, its weapons roaring to life, plasma fire lancing through the asteroid belt. But the humans were already gone, hidden again among the rocks. Back on the flagship's bridge, Marcus looked at his crew. "We can beat it," he said simply. No shouting, no speeches, just a statement of fact. And in their eyes, he saw the same truth. They believed him. Far away, in the Deathworld Alliance council chamber, alien leaders watched the live feed with disbelief. No one had ever lasted this long against the Doombringer. And here were humans, not just surviving, but making the monster miss, making it bleed in that moment. The galaxy began to see Earth differently, and the Doombringer, for the first time, began to understand that this fight was not going to be like the others. This prey was different. This prey was dangerous. And this prey would not run. The Doombringer's plasma cannons roared again, turning whole asteroids into clouds of molten rock. The shockwaves rattled the hull of the human flagship. Alarms screamed, but Captain Marcus Kane didn't flinch. His eyes stayed locked on the tactical display. The enemy was still following, still hunting, and that meant the plan was working. Status on the Shadowhawk? Marcus asked. The comms officer's voice was tense. They're alive, shields at 30%. Engines holding, but they can't take another hit like that. Marcus nodded. Tell them to keep moving, keep firing when they can, and stay out of its forward arc. The asteroid belt was no longer just a hiding place. It was a weapon. Every time the Doombringer tried to maneuver, its massive hull scraped against rocks, sending sparks and shards flying. Each collision chipped away at its armor, invisible damage building with every second. Marcus knew it wasn't enough to kill the beast, but it was enough to slow it. The alien commander inside the Doombringer was losing patience. His ship had crushed fleets in minutes, yet these humans had lasted hours. They struck from the shadows like predators, not prey, and that stung his pride. His voice barked across the enemy bridge, ordering the gunners to fire indiscriminately, to burn the entire asteroid field if they had to. But that desperation was exactly what Marcus wanted. Helm, bring US around to Grid 7, he ordered. The navigator's fingers danced across controls, the ship weaving through tumbling boulders. Weapons, target their starboard thruster banks, small bursts, keep them guessing. The humans darted in again, railguns spitting slugs into the Doombringer's side, small impacts, but aimed with precision. The enemy swiveled to retaliate, only to find another human ship striking from the opposite direction. It was like being bitten by wolves from every side. A plasma beam lanced out, missing Marcus's ship by meters. The heat shimmered across the shields. That was close, muttered the helmsman. Marcus's voice stayed calm. Close means alive, keep going. The deeper they went into the asteroid belt, the more dangerous it became. Massive rocks spun unpredictably, some larger than cities, others sharp as blades. The Doombringer's size made dodging them difficult. Its shields flared constantly from the impacts. Marcus was forcing it into a place where agility mattered more than raw power, and in that place, humans had the advantage. But the risk was real. One wrong move and a ship could be smashed to pieces. And the Doombringer was still dangerous even when slowed. Another human vessel, the Iron Spear, took a direct plasma hit to its midsection. Alarms howled as half the ship went dark. Eject them into the belt, keep the wreck in motion. Make them think it's still fighting, Marcus ordered instantly. The damaged ship's crew evacuated into escape pods, which drifted behind cover. Meanwhile, the Iron Spear's broken hull spun slowly through space, its faint energy signature making the enemy believe it was still operational. The alien commander fell for it, turning part of his firepower on the wreck, wasting precious seconds. While the rest of the human fleet vanished deeper into the belt, Marcus smiled faintly. He's bleeding time. Still, Marcus knew this couldn't last forever. The Doombringer's armor might be scuffed and battered now, but its main guns were still functional, its shield still strong. Humans could harass it all day. But they needed a real opening to finish the fight. And that meant taking a risk no other captain would dare. Helm, set course for the central debris cluster, he said. The crew looked up sharply. The central cluster was the most dangerous part of the belt, where asteroids collided constantly, sending out shockwaves and shrapnel. Navigation was nearly impossible there, but Marcus had studied it for days. He knew there was a path, a narrow one, that could lead them through. The Doombringer followed, still firing, still raging. Each plasma burst, lighting the dark like miniature suns. Asteroids shattered, fragments bouncing harmlessly off the human ships or smashing into the enemy's hull. "Captain, we can't outrun it forever," the tactical officer warned. Marcus's eyes narrowed. "We're not going to outrun it," he said. "We're going to choke it." The plan was simple in words, impossible in execution. Marcus intended to lure the Doombringer into a place so tight that its weapons couldn't aim properly, then use the surrounding asteroids as cover while striking its weak points. If it worked, they'd cripple it. If it failed, they'd be crushed right alongside it. The first part worked perfectly. The Doombringer entered the narrow pass, its bulk scraping against rock, chunks of asteroids spinning away. Its gunners trying to keep up with the darting human ships but finding no clear shots. The humans moved like shadows, hugging the rocks, disappearing just before the plasma beams fired. But then came the danger. A massive asteroid, twice the size of the human flagship, drifted directly into their path. Hard to port. Marcus ordered. The ship rolled, sliding past the rock with meters to spare. Behind them, the Doombringer tried to follow, and that was when it happened. A jagged outcrop tore into its starboard armor, ripping open a section of the hull. "Target that breach," Marcus said sharply. Two human ships swung around, pouring fire into the exposed section. Sparks and debris erupted from the wound. The Doombringer's shields flared desperately to cover it, and in doing so, they weakened elsewhere. "Hit the aft thrusters," Marcus barked. The humans obeyed, railgun slugs slamming into the rear engines. The Doombringer shuddered, its forward momentum slowing. Marcus could feel it. This was the first real advantage they'd had. The alien commander snarled on his bridge, ordering a full-power plasma wave. The weapon fired, the blast tearing apart 3 nearby asteroids. The shockwave slammed into Marcus's ship, throwing crew to the floor. Alarms blared as the shields dipped dangerously low. "We're alive," Marcus said through the chaos, gripping the arm of his chair. "And so is the plan. Keep firing, keep moving." The Doombringer was still deadly, still dangerous, but now it was also trapped. Its massive size and power meant nothing in this tight maze. Here, the humans owned the battlefield, and Marcus intended to make the monster bleed until it could no longer fight. And somewhere deep inside the enemy ship, for the first time in its long and terrifying career, the Doombringer felt something new: fear. The Doombringer strained against the walls of rock around it, engines thundering, its hull scraping as it tried to push free of the asteroid choke point. Every grind of metal against stone sent tremors through its structure. But Captain Marcus Kane wasn't going to let it escape. He could feel the shift now. The once unstoppable predator was slowed, bleeding power, and the humans still had one more move to make. "Bring us about slow speed," Marcus ordered, his voice calm but edged. With purpose, the crew obeyed, swinging the flagship in a wide arc that kept them just out of the Doombringer's forward-firing arc. "Signal the Falcon and the Horizon. Have them prepare their packages." The packages were the heart of the plan, something Marcus had been working toward from the very first moment he saw the Doombringer's battle records. The humans didn't have a weapon strong enough to pierce its armor head-on, but they did have something else. Explosives. More powerful than the Alliance ever thought humans could carry on ships so small. But it wasn't just about the explosives. It was about where they were going to place them. Marcus's eyes shifted to the tactical map of the system, glowing red in the dim bridge light. In the shadow of Vulture's third moon was an old Alliance mining station, abandoned decades ago, forgotten by everyone except Marcus. The station was still operational enough to be dangerous, its holds filled with decades of unused mining charges, cutting lasers and drilling machines, the kind designed to tear through solid rock. If those could be turned against the Doombringer's armor, they might just open the monster's hide for the killing blow. "Helm, take us toward the moon. Steady pace," Marcus said. The navigator hesitated. "That'll give it a clear path to follow us." Marcus's lips curved into the faintest smile. "Exactly." The human fleet began to fall back, weaving through the last stretch of the asteroid maze and out into the open space beyond. The Doombringer surged after them, eager to finally crush the prey that had humiliated it. Each plasma burst from its guns came closer, each shockwave shaking the human ships. "Keep her angry," Marcus told the other captains over the secure channel. "Make her think we're running for our lives." The Falcon darted ahead, firing its railguns into the Doombringer's command tower, scoring deep grooves in the armor. The Horizon launched a cluster of decoys, fake energy signatures that made the enemy fire wild. The Doombringer's commander believed the humans were fleeing, driven by desperation toward the moon. He didn't know that Marcus had already signaled the old mining station, activating its ancient systems from a secure control relay planted there days earlier. They reached the moon's shadow, the great gray curve of it filling half the sky. And there, clinging to the rocks, was the mining station, its huge mechanical arms hanging silent in the void. Marcus could imagine the Doombringer's crew laughing. At the sight, it was nothing but a dead structure, not even worth firing at. "Hold positions," Marcus ordered. The human ships scattered just beyond the moon's surface. Forming a half circle, the Doombringer closed the distance, ready to fire its final shot, its guns lit with deadly energy. That was when Marcus gave the order. Now, the mining station's arms came to life, ancient motors groaning, drills spinning, cutting lasers igniting. Dozens of small automated drones shot out from the station, swarming toward the Doombringer like a cloud of angry insects. Each drone carried a shaped mining charge, meant to punch into asteroid rock, but now they had a much bigger target. The Doombringer's guns tried to track them, but the drones were too fast, zipping around the hull, clamping onto weak points within seconds. The monster's black armor was dotted with blinking red lights. "Detonate Package 1, Marcus said. The first wave of charges exploded, tearing jagged holes in the Doombringer's outer armor. The shockwaves rolled across its hull, forcing its shields to flare and flicker. Marcus didn't give it time to recover. Package 2 now. Another wave of explosions shook the enemy ship, sending debris spinning into space. One blast ripped open a vent port, spewing fire and gas. The Falcon darted in, firing railguns into the breach. The Horizon followed with plasma torpedoes. On the Doombringer's bridge, chaos reigned, alarms wailed, damage reports poured in. The alien commander roared orders to fire back, but the humans stayed out of its main arcs, always hitting from angles it couldn't cover. The mining station kept up the assault, its giant cutters raking the Doombringer's sides, carving deep trenches into the black armor. Sparks showered into space as metal met metal. One of the drills pierced straight through to an inner corridor. Marcus's eyes narrowed. "That's it, hit the breach with everything we have." His ship surged forward, unleashing a storm of railgun fire, the slugs vanishing into the torn armor, followed by a pair of EMP torpedoes that lit the enemy hull with a blue glow. The Doombringer staggered, its massive frame slowing as systems failed across its length. But it wasn't done yet. With a bellow of energy, its main plasma cannon fired, the blast smashing into the mining station, tearing one of its arms free in a shower of molten fragments. The humans felt the shockwave ripple past them, but Marcus only leaned forward in his chair. "Keep going," he said. "It's hurt, but it's not dead yet." The Horizon took a dangerous gamble, diving under the Doombringer's belly to launch its last torpedoes into the gash left by the mining drills. The resulting explosion rippled through the monster's frame, blowing out entire sections of armor. Now, for the first time, the Doombringer wasn't just slowed, it was limping, its movements sluggish, its return fire scattered and weak. Marcus keyed the come, his voice hard as steel. "All ships, form on me, time to finish this." The human fleet tightened around their prey, the mining station's remaining drones making one last suicidal rush, clamping onto whatever pieces of the Doombringer they could reach. Marcus's eyes locked on the tactical readout. The monster's shield strength was dropping fast, and for the first time in its long reign of terror, it looked vulnerable. "Open fire," Marcus said, and the void lit with human fury. The human fleet surged forward like a pack of predators that had finally cornered their prey. Railguns thundered, torpedoes flared through the void, and every shot slammed into the Doombringer's shattered armor. Sparks and molten metal sprayed. From its wounds, the monster's black hull, once flawless, was now scarred and burning. Captain Marcus Kane sat forward in his command chair, eyes locked on the tactical display. The Doombringer's shields were flickering dangerously, no longer the unbreakable wall they had been at the start of the fight. His voice cut through the chaos, steady and precise. Target their power relays. Don't waste a single round on. Heavy armor hit where it hurts. The Falcon and the Horizon obeyed instantly, diving in from opposite flanks, their weapons hammering the exposed inner framework of the Doombringer's hull. One shot after another punched through to vital systems. Explosions rippled along its side, venting streams of gas and fire into space. On the enemy bridge, the alien commander barked orders, his crew scrambling to reroute power and bring auxiliary shields online. But the humans were relentless. Every time a defense was raised, another weak point was struck. The monster was being torn apart piece by piece. Main plasma cannon charging. The tactical officer shouted. Marcus's jaw tightened. All ships, break formation now. The Doombringer's massive forward weapon flared, unleashing a beam of blinding energy that carved through the empty space where the human ships had been. Seconds earlier, the blast tore apart 2 asteroids in the distance, scattering debris across the field. Come back in, Marcus ordered. The human ships wheeled around, using the drifting debris as cover. Plasma fire streaked past them, missing by meters. Railgun bursts and missile trails crossed the void. The humans pressed the attack again, closing the distance. Marcus's plan was in motion, but it came with a risk. He needed to get close enough to deliver the final strike. Dangerously close, closer than any sane captain would dare. The Horizon made the first run, diving low under the Doombringer's belly, its torpedoes finding the gaping wound left by the mining station's drills. The explosion shook the massive ship, throwing chunks of molten armor into the black. The Doombringer's counterattack was brutal. A secondary plasma battery locked onto the Falcon, hitting it with a blast that tore through its port side. Alarms screamed over the comms. The Falcon's captain's voice came through, ragged but steady. We're still in it. Keep firing. Marcus knew the Falcon wouldn't last much longer. He had to end this now. All ships, prepare for the spear run, he said. The spear run was a human tactic. No other species dared attempt a straight-line charge into point-blank range, unleashing every weapon in one concentrated volley. It was suicide if the enemy could track your approach. But the Doombringer's sensors were damaged. Its targeting was slow. Mark your vectors, Marcus ordered. The humans aligned their ships, weaving through the drifting debris. The Doombringer's guns tried to follow, but every turn was sluggish now. Every shot a fraction too late. They hit at the same time. The Falcon from above, the Horizon from below, Marcus's flagship from the front. Railguns slammed into the command tower. Missiles streaked into the engine vents. Plasma bolts tore through the reactor housing. The Doombringer shook violently, its forward momentum stalling. The alien commander screamed for more power, but his voice was drowned out by the sound of tearing metal as the humans' fire ripped through bulkheads. Entire compartments were vented into space, crew and debris spinning into the void. Then Marcus saw at the opening. The Doombringer's main reactor shield had failed for just a moment, exposing the glowing core deep within its hull. Lock onto the core, he said. Quietly, the weapons officer's hands flew over controls. The flagship's railguns fired, every slug aimed with deadly precision. The first shot struck the outer casing, cracking it open. The next burst went straight into the reactor. There was no single explosion. There were dozens, rippling through the Doombringer as systems overloaded and fuel lines ignited. The monster's body lit up with internal fire, its black armor splitting apart under the pressure. the soundless bloom of destruction. "Spread across the void, pull back," Marcus ordered. The human ships veered away, their engines flaring as they put distance between themselves and the dying beast. Behind them, the Doombringer tore itself apart, chunks of molten metal spinning away into the darkness. A wave of debris chasing the retreating ships. When the light finally faded, all that was left was wreckage drifting in the silent black. On the human flagship's bridge, the crew stared at the view in stunned silence. No one spoke, no one moved. The monster that had haunted the galaxy, that had destroyed fleets and burned worlds, was gone. Marcus exhaled slowly, his voice quiet but carrying to every ear on the bridge. "Transmit to the Alliance Council, threat neutralized." In the Deathworld Alliance's war chamber, alien leaders sat frozen as the feed came through. They saw the wreckage, they heard the human captain's calm report. Some looked relieved, others unsettled. They had called Earth into this fight as a desperate gamble, expecting them to fail. Instead, the humans had done what no one else could, and somewhere deep in every mind, a new thought took root. If humans could destroy the Doombringer, what else could they do? The wreckage of the Doombringer drifted silently, huge fragments of its once feared hull tumbling slowly through the black. The last embers of its reactor burned out in the cold void, leaving only darkness where moments ago there had been fire and death. The battle was over, but the silence that followed carried its own weight. On the bridge of the human flagship, the crew sat in stunned quiet, some staring at the drifting debris, others simply letting out long, shaky breaths. Captain Marcus Kane stayed in his chair, his eyes locked on the sight before them. It was not triumph he felt, not yet. It was the deep, grounding knowledge that they had faced the worst the galaxy had to offer, and they had survived. The comms officer's voice broke the silence. "Captain, incoming transmissions from the Alliance Council, all channels." Marcus nodded. "Put it through." The main display flickered, and the faces of dozens of alien leaders appeared, their expressions a mix of awe, disbelief, and on some thinly veiled unease. An elder from the Zarathi delegation spoke first, her voice careful. "The threat is destroyed. The Doombringer will never trouble our worlds again. You have our gratitude, Captain Kane." Marcus inclined his head slightly. "We were asked to stop it, so we did." His voice was calm, almost casual, as if they hadn't just done the impossible. The silence from the council stretched then. Another voice, sharp and cold, came from a Cathar general. "Impressive, but dangerous humans." His slitted eyes narrowed. "If you can destroy something like the Doombringer, what's to stop you from turning that power against us?" Marcus didn't flinch. "What's to stop anyone?" He replied evenly. "We fought because the Alliance called for help. Remember that." His gaze swept across the council chamber, letting the weight of his words hang there. Some nodded slowly, others exchanged glances. Marcus knew what they were thinking. The galaxy had always underestimated Earth, now they couldn't. And that made some nervous. Back on the flagship, the crew began to move again. Systems checks resumed. Damage reports came in. The Falcon limped alongside them, its hull scorched but intact. The Horizon's crew sent a short, defiant message. Still flying, but the victory hadn't come without cost. One ship was gone entirely, lost in the early stages of the fight. And dozens of human lives had been given to bring the Doombringer down. The weight of those losses pressed against Marcus's chest as he looked out at the drifting wreckage. A quiet chime drew his attention. The comms officer gestured to a private channel. "Captain, it's the commander of the Vulture colony." Marcus nodded for it to be patched through. A tired-looking alien appeared, his voice thick with emotion. "My people, we thought we'd be next. You didn't just save the Alliance, you saved families. Homes, lives. We'll never forget." Marcus gave a small nod. "Then make sure you remember it was humanity's first fight at your side," he said. The alien smiled faintly, a mixture of gratitude and new respect in his eyes. As the fleet turned toward the jump point, news of the battle was already spreading across the galaxy. in the ports and markets, in the barracks and bars. The story grew with every telling how the humans had stood against the monster, how they had used cunning instead of brute force, how they had refused to back down when everyone else had failed. On worlds that had once laughed at Earth's small fleets, there was now a different tone, whispers of what humans might do next, what else they might be capable of. In some corners of the galaxy, fear began to replace doubt. Marcus walked the length of the bridge, stopping to place a hand on the shoulder of each crew member. No speeches, no grand declarations, just the quiet acknowledgement of what they'd done together. The crew straightened under his gaze, pride replacing exhaustion, as they prepared to jump back to Alliance space. The Doombringer's shattered hull began to drift further away. Soon it would be nothing more than scattered debris, another ghost in the endless dark. But its legend would live on, not as the monster that terrorized the galaxy, but as the beast brought down by humans. The jump drive hummed to life. The stars stretched into lines, and the human fleet vanished into the deep black, leaving the grave of the Doombringer behind. In the weeks that followed, Alliance councils debated long into the night, some calling for tighter control over humanity's growing power, others arguing for stronger ties with these unpredictable Deathworlders. The humans didn't press the matter, they simply rebuilt their ships, trained harder, and watched the galaxy watch them. Marcus returned to Earth briefly. The oceans and forests a sharp contrast to the cold void he had just left. Reporters crowded the landing bays. Families embraced their returning soldiers, and in every corner of the planet, there was a new sense of pride. At a quiet ceremony, Marcus stood before the names of the fallen, etched into a black memorial wall, his reflection staring back at him from the polished surface. He said nothing aloud, but in his mind, he promised that their sacrifice would never be wasted. The galaxy had learned a truth that day, one it would not forget. Humans were not the strongest, the fastest, or the most advanced, but they were something far more dangerous. They were survivors, they were fighters, and once they set their minds to a goal, they would see it done, no matter the cost. And somewhere, in the deep dark corners of space, those who had once thought humanity insignificant now spoke in hushed tones, not about the Doombringer, but about the species that had slain it. Because if humans could do that, what else might they be willing to do when the next threat came?